Pigeon Street was a children's television series that the BBC commissioned in the 1980s, and it was on for most of that decade. It was kind of a soap opera for children, so under 5, so this is a preschool programme. And it concerned a group of people who lived in a street called Pigeon Street, obviously overlooked by pigeons who really were just links from one scene to another. So it was kind of a Coronation Street for children. Pigeon Street was very reality based. It wasn't, there were no talking animals, there were no elves or fairies. It was just based in reality. And the reason that came about was because the BBC wanted to replace Trumpton and Camberwick Green. The technique that I used for Pigeon Street was cutout animation. And this means that you draw the characters on paper and then cut them out. So you've got arms and heads and legs and bodies, and you assemble them to form what effectively is a two-dimensional puppet. I think the music was a really important part of Pigeon Street, partly just because I've always been very interested in music myself, but there was actually a practical reason really, was that because there were 30 characters, every time you introduced a new character, you had to say something to sum them up, to remind the children what that character was about. So Clara, for example, had her own song. The big plus about that was he could use the song every week, which meant that although we had to fill 15 minutes of airtime, we could fill up a little bit of that by a generic song that we'd made for a previous episode. So every time Clara came into the story, you would often get Clara's theme. You'd show the story of her driving her truck across the Sahara and all that stuff, which would remind children exactly who she was. They would also have the familiarity of that song, which they would like anyway, because they'd get to know those songs. And the other bonus was that we would fill up some of our 15 minutes without having to reshoot anything. We could simply reuse what we'd shot before. Pigeon Street was shown all the way through the 1980s on TV, and then there came a period of time where it went off air, and the only way you could see Pigeon Street was by buying the video, which was available for a while. This was on VHS, and I think only 4 episodes. I don't think we ever did put all 13 episodes. And actually people might be surprised there were only 13 episodes, but there were. But most of those episodes weren't available. So there was a generation of people, I think, who grew up from remembering Pigeon Street from when they were 5, but not being able to really see it. And it developed quite a cult status, I think, that way. And this wasn't done intentionally. I mean, it was just that the VHS came out, and that was available for a while. Eventually, you would only be able to buy that secondhand. So we've remastered the series and got it as good as I dare get it for the kind of money that I can afford to spend. So it's not HD, but it's certainly better than any 16mm film was ever seen at the time. I'm hoping, I don't think most people will remember the quality of it. They were 5-year-old at the time they were watching it, and I don't think it's something that they remember distinctly. But I'm hoping that the way it looks now will be more the way people remember it, rather than the way it actually was, because it actually wasn't. 16mm film used to have a lot of grain, flickering. We've got rid of a lot of that, a lot of the horizon bobbing up and down, and we've got rid of a lot of that. And now I think it's being seen probably better than it's ever been seen before.